What do you make of the recent UAPs, I think is the new term. Eric, you need to get up with the times here. They're not UFOs anymore. That's the old.
I wasn't even in this game when it was UFOs. So,
okay. So what do you make of the recent UAP stories and attention and response and subsequent response?
I'd like to ask you first.
So I had a look at the first whistleblower from about 2 months ago quite closely with Andy Stumpf, who used to have pretty high-level security clearance, and he explained to me about how unimpressive that particular type of security clearance is, how very common.
Which one? This is David?
Yes, David. No, not David Fravor.
No. David Fravor was the Tic Tac.
Correct.
This is Dave Garush?
Yes.
Okay.
Very common level of security clearance, that using that as some sort of, this is a legitimate credential. Doesn't really wash too much. That it was it was third-hand information mostly, second-hand information kind of. I heard from a person who saw or who heard.
Right.
It just seemed to me to be rather, on the face of it, unimpressive, that release.
I see.
What did you think?
Well, like I've been telling everybody, these are highly conserved stories. This is not the only person I've heard this story from. I've heard this from multiple people. There are various versions of this secret world which play out as space opera. You know, then MJ-12 became the real government that only even the president couldn't understand, you know? And it's like, okay. So that's the weird part about it until you start realizing how sober many of the people are who believe this and who claim to have had direct contact with it. And then you don't know what to do. I mean, in other words, whatever this is, there is a thing. It's not necessarily little green men. It could be, for example, that they mock up a floating spaceship in a hangar and then they drag people past it and say, whatever you do, do not look to your left or right or you'll be shot. And then, of course, people look and then, like, mission accomplished. Now people will say, oh, my God, you have no idea the U.S. has incredible technology. And then maybe the idea is you've got a cover story. Maybe you've got your adversary investing in things that don't make any sense. I don't know. But there's nothing here. This is not about Mylar balloons and seagulls anymore.
I'm trying to come up with a word for it, but it's like recursive false flags.
Yeah.
In a way, where the goal is not to give or hide truth.
The goal
is to fire hose with information so much that the truth can no longer be discerned.
It's a haystack of bullshit to make sure that any needle is very difficult to find. It is.
Yes. Bullshit haystacking. I love it. Yeah.
Okay. So they haystack the crap out of this thing. I have no question that there was something that was used to develop U.S. aircraft like the B-2 bomber and the SR-71 Blackbird. So if you see something crazy in the sky, better that you think it's a UFO from outer space than some advanced thing from Lockheed. I have no question that we use this to deal with things like the Chinese balloon shoot down, where we shot down several things in a week and we couldn't recover debris from any of them. I mean, come on, guys. Maybe the idea is that this is a head fake to our adversaries to develop the wrong things and to use their treasure on things that won't work. Maybe there's a secret program where some of this stuff is actually real and true, and we're not allowed to know it because it would be too mind-blowing. Maybe there's a cult inside of our government that has replaced angels with saucer-shaped aircraft. Whatever this thing is, it's being used for many different purposes. There's something here. We just don't know what. This is the problem. The princess can't feel a pee because that would be impossible. The princess feels a disturbance. And you can't say what the disturbance is. Maybe it's a golf ball. Maybe it's a cantaloupe. Maybe it's a banana. But whatever it is, there's something wrong with the mattress.
Yeah, it seems to me this fire hosing, the goal of uncertainty.
Right. How do things muddle out? Who wins in a muddle is a great question we're not taught to ask. Sorry to jump in on
No,
that, but
tell
I
me
just
more.
always looked for who is trying to muddle to win. Like very often you're in a dispute with entrenched status quo. And somebody will say, well, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on this one. Like, oh, well, who wins if we agree to disagree? Oh, it's you. Right?
Yeah.
This is like an old principle of mine, which is that you can always tell who's guilty by who first declares a time of healing.
Why? Why is that a razor to use?
Oh, because if you do something wrong and the public is clamoring for your blood, you say, there's been too much blame and finger pointing on all sides.
At me.
I think what we need is to come together and declare a time of healing.
For me.
Right. So I believe that in general, whoever declares a time of healing is suspect number one.
That's a very nice razor to use. I wonder about this. Oh, how would you say? Epidemic of uncertainty.
Brilliant. Speaking my language.
And I wonder how, first off, how as an individual you are supposed to put up any kind of effective defense. To just take some sovereignty, being, an agentic individual.
Right.
And secondly, I wonder what the end goal is. I understand why uncertainty would be useful for manipulation, because if people can't discern truth from untruth, it can be easy to poke them and prod them and float them in particular directions. Right. But it also seems like, kind of also useless as well, that some people, non-insignificant, large cohort of people will just reject it entirely, which actually
they're doing.
Which actually makes it more chaotic and more unruly. So it makes me think, well, maybe if this is the case, if the fire hosing is happening,
right,
this epidemic of uncertainty, maybe the outcomes were predicted but haven't manifested in the way that was intended. Maybe there's more of a rebellious streak in...
Say more about that. I'm not trying to understand you.
That if you make the public very uncertain about most things by overloading them with information, or by even it doesn't even need to be coordination. It could be a byproduct of having 24/7 access to the entire world's population through Twitter and Instagram stories and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
There is so much I can no longer discern, even due to a multiplicity of opinions that's not coordinated to be a multiplicity that go in opposite directions.
Right.
If it was coordinated, the outcomes that are occurring at the moment, a lot of the time don't seem to be happening with people just, roll over, tell me exactly what to do. There is a massive, non-insignificant cohort of people that say, I'm checking out, and I now no longer trust anybody at all. And that doesn't seem...
anything.
Yes, and that doesn't seem to be, if the goal was ease of control, that doesn't seem to be effective for the person that wanted that or the group that wanted that to be the outcome.
First of all, I'm really glad to get a question about this as a sea change, which is that our lives have become wall-to-wall uncertainty. We can't discern. If the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor today, we would spend 10 years discussing whether it was a false flag, whether it was actually the Japanese, whether there was any attack, whether it was a soundstage, whether it was a psyop, whether it was Right now, the main institutions of our society have abdicated their role for public-spirited adjudication of what is true based on expertise. And so what you're seeing is people coming to hate experts and coming to hate institutions because they're realizing that these institutions lie to them at a level that they've never considered unless they were Alex Jones fans to begin with. And so what you're having is a large number of people waking up to the idea that, yeah, there really are organizations and working groups that determine what you hear from a multiplicity of venues. It's the same message relentlessly.
Do you think people are overly pattern matching that now?
Say more by what you mean.
That they're seeing conspiracy where there isn't because the lack of faith in institutions.
Same person is saying that they see a conspiracy and they see no conspiracy. They have part of their head that remembers that conspiracy theorists are crazy people. And they've got part of their brain that remembers that normies who don't believe in conspiracies are crazy people. And they can't integrate those things, right? They cannot figure out, how are these things being coordinated? Am I a crazy person for seeing these patterns? Am I a crazy person for ignoring them?
For believing them?
For when they're unearthed? What you're seeing is a complete destruction of bedrock reality that if you weren't actually physically there. How do we know that these people actually met in a warehouse? Is this really a table or is it just, CGI? Was it green and we could superimpose wood onto it? Nobody knows what's true. And if you ask me, well, Eric, how are you dealing with this? I would say I'm failing. I'm just flat out failing, as are all of you. I'm just more honest about it. Some of you have an idea that you've got one lens, which is fix the money, fix the world. Bitcoin, that's the answer. Yeah, Bitcoin, rock on. But no, that's not the answer. Or somebody else says, I really think that we just need to be open and tolerant and realize it's a big world and you just have to give people their due. Well, that doesn't work either. You can't just let everything run riot, or we have to go back to our institutions. With these people at the helm, are you kidding? We have to abandon our institution. Wait, what are you saying? We're going to abandon our institutions? Do you know what that looks like? Nobody has an answer.
In other news, this episode is brought to you by Shopify. Shopify is the e-commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool you need to start, run, and grow your business without any expertise. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling satin sheets from Shopify's in-person POS or offering organic olive oil on Shopify's e-commerce platform, they have got everything covered for you. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce across the United States. Massive brands like Gymshark still use Shopify. That's how powerful it is. So if you want to start selling something, anything online, Shopify is where to start. You can begin a $1 per month trial period right now by going to the link in the show notes below or heading to shopify.com/modernwisdom. That's shopify.com/modernwisdom to take your business to the next level today. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip with Eric, then press here for the full-length 3-hour episode. Go on. Press it.